Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling smaller than when it started? Maybe you were laughing along, nodding politely, but deep down something felt wrong. You couldn't quite put your finger on it, but you left the room feeling drained, doubting yourself, and replaying every word they said. This is the reality of dealing with a narcissist, and most of us don't even realize it's happening. Narcissism isn't always loud or obvious. It doesn't always come with arrogance or cruelty that you can easily spot. Sometimes it's hidden behind a smile, disguised as charm, or even cloaked in helpful advice. It's subtle enough to make you question your own judgment, leaving you wondering if you're just overreacting. If this feels familiar, you're not imagining it. Narcissistic behavior is often invisible to the untrained eye, which is why so many of us stay stuck in toxic cycles without realizing we're being manipulated. And this isn't just about relationships. It could be a friend, a family member, a coworker, or even a boss. What you're about to hear isn't just a list of traits. It's a story, a reflection of what so many people live through every single day, often in silence. And if you stay with me until the end, you won't just understand narcissism better, you'll be able to spot it the moment it walks into your life. That knowledge is your protection. Most narcissists don't walk into your life looking like villains. They're not always loud, aggressive, or obviously cruel. In fact, many are the opposite: warm, confident, magnetic. They know how to make you feel special at first, like you finally found someone who sees you. That's what makes them so dangerous. Narcissists don't just manipulate, they charm. They study people, learn their insecurities, and use that knowledge to build trust. Maybe you've met someone like this before. At first, they seem too good to be true. Funny, attentive, endlessly confident. They knew exactly what to say to make you feel safe. But slowly, without you realizing it, something shifted. Their compliments turned into subtle criticisms. Their jokes started cutting deeper, and you found yourself second-guessing your every word around them. You might have even caught yourself apologizing constantly, even when you did nothing wrong. That's the mask of narcissism, a polished exterior designed to disarm you. Narcissists are often masters of performance, playing roles so convincingly that even the most intuitive people get caught in their web. They can appear generous, thoughtful, even humble at times. But underneath that carefully crafted image is a deep hunger, not for love or connection, but for control. And here's the hardest part. Because they're so skilled at hiding their true nature, you often won't notice the manipulation right away. It happens gradually, like a slow leak in your confidence. One day, you wake up feeling smaller, more anxious, less like yourself, and you can't even remember when it started. This is why so many people stay trapped in relationships with narcissists, because at first, they feel incredible. Narcissists know how to make you feel chosen, like you're the only one who understands them. They'll shower you with attention, affection, and praise. This is often called love bombing. But it doesn't always have to be romantic. A narcissistic friend or coworker can do the same thing, building you up, only to tear you down later when it benefits them. And because they're so good at reading people, they'll know exactly what keeps you hooked. Maybe it's your need for validation, your loyalty, or your empathy. They'll use those qualities against you, and by the time you notice, it's hard to break free. You feel guilty for questioning them. You blame yourself for the tension. You tell yourself, maybe I'm too sensitive, or maybe I'm the problem. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Millions of people experience this every day, often without realizing they're dealing with a narcissist. That's the power of the mask. It makes you doubt your own instincts. And the more you doubt yourself, the easier it is for them to control you. But here's something you need to hear. Your instincts were never wrong. That pit in your stomach, that heaviness after talking to them, that confusion you can't quite shake, it's not you, it's them. Narcissists thrive on making people question their reality, because once they control your perception, they control everything. This is why it's so important to learn the subtle signs, because narcissists are experts at blending in. They're not always the loudest person in the room. Sometimes they're the quietest, They're not always the bossy coworker. Sometimes they're the helpful one who always knows better. Their mask is their weapon, and if you can see through it, you take away their power. So stay with me, because the mask is only the beginning. Behind it lies a cycle of manipulation that keeps people trapped for years, sometimes a lifetime. And once you understand that cycle, you'll never see these interactions the same way again. Once a narcissist has your trust, the real game begins. It doesn't start with obvious cruelty. It starts with confusion. One day they're warm and affectionate, making you feel like the most important person in their world. The next, they're distant, cold, or critical, and you have no idea why. This push and pull dynamic is intentional. It keeps you chasing their approval, always wondering what you did wrong. This is how they gain control. When someone makes you feel amazing one moment and worthless the next, your mind becomes addicted to their validation. You start working harder to earn their love, their friendship, or even their basic kindness. And every time you get a little bit of their praise, it feels like a reward. That's not love, it's conditioning. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement, a tactic that keeps you hooked on unpredictability. It's the same principle that makes slot machines so addictive. You never know when you'll win, but you keep playing because you remember what it feels like. Narcissists use this same method to control relationships, and over time, it can rewire the way you see yourself. You might start doubting your own memory because they twist your words and rewrite history. This is gaslighting. They'll say things like, "You're overreacting," or "I never said that," even when you know they did. And slowly, you stop trusting yourself. You begin to feel like you're the problem. This isn't just manipulation, it's psychological warfare. Narcissists thrive when you feel uncertain, because uncertainty makes you easier to control. And the more you doubt yourself, the more you lean on them for reassurance. That's exactly what they want. Maybe you've been in a relationship like this before, romantic, family, or even professional. You found yourself walking on eggshells, carefully choosing your words, afraid of triggering their anger or disappointment. You blamed yourself for every fight, every silent treatment, every moment of tension. And no matter how much you gave, it was never enough. If this sounds familiar, I want you to know something. This isn't your fault. Narcissists are experts at finding kind, empathetic people, because empathy is easy to exploit. Your kindness isn't a weakness, it's your strength. But in the hands of someone manipulative, it becomes a tool they use against you. And here's why it's so important to understand this cycle. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. You start noticing the patterns, the hot and cold behavior, the guilt trips, the way they always make themselves the victim. You start realizing that their treatment of you says more about them than it does about you. And that awareness is the first step to breaking free. If you're nodding along right now, if this feels like a chapter from your own life, I'd like to hear your story. Not just for me, but for the thousands of people scrolling through the comments, feeling trapped, confused, and alone. Your words might be the thing that helps them realize they're not crazy, they're not broken, they're not overreacting, they're being manipulated. And if you're still watching this, that already says something powerful about you. It means a part of you is ready for clarity, ready to see through the mask, and ready to reclaim your sense of self. That's a strength most people underestimate. Stay with me, because in the next part, we'll explore why narcissists thrive in silence, and why so many of us never see their behavior for what it really is until it's too late. One of the most dangerous things about narcissists is how invisible they can be. We often picture them as loud, arrogant, or abusive, but many are quiet, subtle, and incredibly skilled at playing innocent. That's why so many people don't realize they're being manipulated until years have passed. Narcissists thrive in silence because silence protects them. Think about it. When you're dealing with someone who constantly makes you doubt yourself, how likely are you to speak up? Maybe you've tried before, only to be met with laughter, dismissal, or rage. They twist your words, play the victim, or convince others that you're too sensitive. Slowly, you stop talking. You stop asking for help. You stop trusting your own perspective. This is how they win, not by being loud, but by making you feel small. Narcissists don't always need to shout to control you. They just need to make you question yourself enough that you stay quiet. And when you're quiet, they can rewrite the story however they like. This silence isn't just personal, it's cultural. We live in a society that often romanticizes confidence and charisma without questioning what's behind it. Narcissists know how to take advantage of that. They'll play the role of the charming leader, the caring friend, or the selfless partner. And because they look good on the outside, no one suspects what's happening behind closed doors. Maybe you've even tried to explain your experience to someone else, only for them to say, "I don't see it. They seem so nice." That disbelief cuts deep. It makes you feel even more isolated, even more certain that no one would understand. And that's exactly why narcissists get away with so much. They know how to craft an image that shields them from accountability. But here's what they don't expect. Awareness spreads. Once you start learning the patterns, you start spotting them everywhere. Suddenly, that perfect coworker doesn't seem so perfect. That friend who always makes backhanded compliments doesn't seem so harmless. And that family member who plays the victim every time you set a boundary, you finally see the pattern for what it is. Narcissists thrive in silence, but their power crumbles when people start talking, learning, and supporting each other. The very act of watching videos like this one is a form of resistance because it means you're refusing to stay confused. You're choosing clarity. If this resonates, I want you to stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to share isn't just theory or abstract psychology. It's a real, practical checklist for spotting narcissistic behavior. Once you see these signs, you can't unsee them, and that awareness is what breaks their power over you. Narcissism isn't always loud. In fact, the most dangerous narcissists are often the ones who fly under the radar, hiding their traits behind politeness or humor. They know how to make you doubt your instincts, which is why their behavior is often dismissed as just their personality. But if you pay attention, the signs are always there. One of the most telling is the backhanded compliment. It sounds kind on the surface, but cuts you down underneath. They might say, "Wow, you actually look really good today," or "I wish I had the time to relax like you do," making you feel insulted without a clear reason. Over time, these small jabs wear down your confidence, and you start questioning yourself even in safe spaces. Then there's subtle blame shifting. A narcissist rarely apologizes sincerely. Instead, they twist the story so you feel responsible for their behavior. If they get angry, it's because you made them upset. If they withdraw, it's because you're too demanding. You end up apologizing just to keep the peace, even when you've done nothing wrong. Another sign is constant competition. Narcissists don't celebrate your success. They see it as a threat. If you share good news, they'll either downplay it, outdo it, or make it about them. It's exhausting because no matter what you achieve, they always have a way of reminding you that you're never quite enough. Pay attention to how they react to boundaries. Healthy people respect limits. Narcissists see boundaries as challenges. They'll push, guilt trip, or use emotional manipulation to get what they want. This is why setting limits with a narcissist often feels impossible. They'll make you feel like you're being unreasonable for simply protecting yourself. And perhaps the most insidious sign of all is their lack of genuine empathy. They can mimic empathy when it benefits them, but when you're in pain or struggling, they're quick to dismiss your feelings or turn the conversation back to themselves. This leaves you feeling unheard and unseen, and over time, you start to believe your emotions don't matter. These behaviors often seem small in isolation. That's why so many people miss them. But narcissists are experts at layering these tactics over time until you feel trapped. You start walking on eggshells, adjusting your personality to avoid conflict, and doubting your own worth. That's the real danger, not the occasional insult, but the slow erosion of your confidence. If any of these signs feel familiar, take a moment to pause. This isn't about diagnosing someone you know or labeling people recklessly. It's about recognizing patterns that have been making you feel drained, anxious, or unseen. Awareness is the first step toward healing. And here's the good news. Once you see these signs, you can't unsee them. The very fact that you're connecting these dots means you're waking up. And narcissists lose power the moment their tactics stop working. Stay with me, because next, we'll talk about the emotional cost of ignoring these red flags and why recognizing them might just save you years of pain. Living with a narcissist doesn't just drain your energy, it slowly reshapes who you are. It's like waking up one day and realizing you're not the same person you used to be. Maybe you used to laugh easily, share your thoughts freely, or trust people without hesitation. Now, you second-guess every word before you speak. You scan every expression on their face, bracing yourself for their reaction. You walk into a room already carrying their judgment in your head. This kind of stress isn't always dramatic. It's not like the movies where there's shouting or chaos every day. Often it's quiet, subtle, like a slow leak you don't notice until the floor is soaked. That's what makes it so damaging. The harm creeps in over time, convincing you that you're overreacting, that this is just how things are, or worse, that you're the problem. The emotional cost of staying silent is that you start disappearing. Piece by piece, your confidence, your self-esteem, and even your identity can erode. You forget what it feels like to speak without fear, to laugh without hesitation, to believe in yourself without needing someone else's approval. Narcissists don't just take control of your relationships, they take control of your inner world. And maybe that's why so many people stay. Because when you've been manipulated long enough, leaving doesn't feel like freedom. It feels terrifying. You've been trained to doubt your own judgment, so even imagining life without them feels impossible. That's part of their design. Narcissists thrive when you feel too weak to walk away. But here's something they never expect. Awareness changes everything. The moment you start naming their tactics, the spell begins to break. You see the manipulation for what it is instead of blaming yourself for it. You start to notice moments of strength you didn't realize you had, like the fact that you're here, right now, watching this, searching for clarity. That's courage. That's proof that you haven't lost yourself completely. If you've been feeling drained, trapped, or invisible, I want you to know something. This is not your forever. Narcissists don't define who you are. Their treatment of you doesn't determine your value. The fact that you're seeking truth means you're already stepping into your own power. And the next step is recognizing the emotional patterns for what they are. Control tactics, not reflections of your worth. Stay with me, because soon we'll piece together the ultimate checklist for spotting narcissism in your life, so you'll never doubt your instincts again. Now that you understand how narcissists work, let's bring it all together into something you can actually use. A real-life checklist to help you spot these patterns before they sink their claws into you. But instead of rattling off a list like a textbook, let's walk through what this looks like in real life. Because narcissists thrive when their behavior feels normal. You feel smaller around them. After spending time together, you often feel drained, insecure, or anxious, even if there was no obvious fight. That heaviness in your chest, that's a sign. Your feelings are always minimized. You try to express yourself, and they say things like, "You're too sensitive," or "You're overthinking it." Over time, you start believing them. They rewrite reality. You remember conversations they swear never happened. You recall promises they never made. This gaslighting makes you feel like you're losing your mind. Everything revolves around them. Even in your moments of pain or joy, somehow the spotlight shifts back to their life, their struggles, their success. Boundaries are always a battle. Whether it's your time, your space, or your feelings, they see limits as challenges, not as healthy boundaries. Their charm feels performative. They know how to win over strangers, colleagues, or family, which makes it harder for others to believe your side of the story. You feel guilty for saying no. They've trained you to put their needs above your own, so choosing yourself feels selfish. Now, pause for a moment. As you hear this checklist, are you thinking of someone? Maybe a partner, a friend, a coworker, or even a family member. Your gut is trying to tell you something. That uncomfortable feeling, It's your body recognizing a pattern your mind hasn't fully processed yet. Awareness isn't about labeling everyone you know as a narcissist. It's about recognizing who drains your energy and erodes your confidence, and who truly makes you feel safe. Once you see the difference, it's almost impossible to unsee it. And that's when things start to change. This checklist isn't just information, it's armor. Because when you know these signs, you don't second-guess yourself as much. You stop apologizing for things that aren't your fault. You stop believing every story they spin. And slowly, you reclaim your power. So if you've been nodding along, if your heart feels heavy right now, stay with me. Because in this final part, we're going to talk about what to do with this knowledge and how to start stepping out of the grip of narcissistic control, one small step at a time. Here's the truth. Narcissists don't change easily, and you can't control how they treat you. But what you can control is what you see, what you accept, and what you choose to walk away from. Awareness is your greatest weapon because narcissists thrive in confusion. When you recognize their tactics, when you name them for what they are, you take back power they never should have had over you. If you've been living in a constant state of doubt, replaying conversations, questioning your worth, or walking on eggshells around someone, hear this. It is not your fault. The pain you feel is real, and it doesn't mean you're weak. In fact, your empathy, your kindness, your willingness to see the good in people, that's your strength. It's exactly why narcissists are drawn to you, and it's also the reason you're strong enough to break free. Healing from this kind of dynamic isn't about waking up one morning and suddenly feeling strong. It's about small steps, trusting your gut when it whispers that something is wrong, setting a boundary even if your hands shake, taking space even if you feel guilty. Each step is proof that you are reclaiming yourself piece by piece. If this video feels personal, it's because it is. These patterns don't just exist in books or studies. They live in homes, workplaces, and friendships every single day. And the fact that you're here, watching this, means you're already waking up to it. That's powerful. That's brave. You deserve relationships where you feel safe, loved, and seen, not ones that make you doubt your own worth. And while this video is just a starting point, I hope it's the spark that helps you see the truth more clearly. If any part of this resonated with you, share your thoughts below. Your story might be the lifeline someone else needs tonight. And if you want to keep learning, keep growing, and keep building that strength, you know where to find us. Because awareness spreads, and the more we see these patterns, the less power they have over any of us.